Have you ever wanted a city building game except you're also trying to take over the whole world? Well, Kaiserpunk is finally here, and it's a game quite unlike anything else I've played before. Why? Well, imagine building a thriving city in Australia only to be invaded by Africa or Greece with their ships, tanks, and whatever else we had during World War I. Yeah. This game is a mashup of city building and historical conquest style gameplay, where you start by managing a city, building up your military, and then attacking your rivals to become the greatest empire. It's not a Civilization or Anno ripoff, no, but rather its own unique genre the devs are calling a grand city builder. They were also kind enough to send me an early preview key, so some of the gameplay might change upon release, but I will say this, it is a lot of fun and I did struggle to put it down. It's not perfect, but I'll be taking you through my 26 hours of gameplay to see if this game is right for you. As always, if you end up enjoying this video, please don't forget to leave a like or perhaps subscribe to help find more games to get lost in. But on with the video. When booting up a new game, Kaiserpunk has a variety of starting conditions to choose from. A world map is presented first, which even though the game is set in an alternate history from 1918 to 1945, the devs opted for recent country and city names. Being from South Africa, I was like, yeah, of course they had to choose a name I can't pronounce, but at least it wasn't like France that was somehow completely forgotten. So I do hope more places get added in soon. Then Grand Strategy fans will get to feast on the heritage part. That, along with the different military skins, let you choose a gameplay style that each have their own pros and cons. Next is customizing your flag with various degrees of options, and then finally you have the difficulty modifiers, like choosing how many AI players you want to changing your production rates. Now I tested both normal and easy difficulty, and I must say, even on easy, this game is a real challenge, so don't go in thinking you can start blasting every enemy you see. Overall, tons of options for you to test out in the initial setup, adding to the replayability of it all. But it won't scare off people that are new to the grand strategy side of things. So with that behind us, let's jump into the gameplay. At the start, you get a little backstory based on your chosen country. I won't dive into historical accuracy, but I liked how each region feels distinct, with biomes reflecting their real-world counterparts, like Australia is dry and dusty, while South Africa has more greenery. Also, the game includes these choices matter type of scenarios. They first appear at the start of the game, then reappear in the late game once you start taking over more enemy territory. I do think it's a really neat feature that adds some impact to the situations you come across. You begin with just a town hall, quickly expanding with houses, farms, and production buildings. The visuals lean toward a bleak, realistic style, not exactly eye-catching, but fitting for the post-World War I setting. It can feel a little too dark at times, but zooming in on your citizens going about their day really adds some life. More city builders should do this. Watching people work or riot really makes a city feel alive. Your population starts with laborers for basic work, later needing manufacturers, technicians, and specialists for advanced industries. And yes, those are AI generated character portraits, but we'll get to that later. Production and logistics are the game's backbone though. Buildings are interdependent. You'll need storage for wood, which then feeds into lumber yards, which then can lead to paper, newspapers, or even shipbuilding. Unlocking new buildings is pretty straightforward. Expand industries and upgrade structures. The interface also gives useful stats, but I found it lacking in some areas. More charts, overlays, or building highlights would have really helped. Despite that, the city building and production loop is just plain fun. After a few hours, you'll have a solid grasp on your citizens' needs, and maybe even some military buildings. Because the mid-game brings new challenges, including trade, or maybe something a little less diplomatic. So the early game, that was a nice stroll. The mid-game though, more like a frantic sprint through a minefield. Macro and micromanagement go into overdrive, and if the balancing doesn't get you, your own questionable decision making might. I certainly had my struggles. By now, upgrades are a must. You can stack perks like tripling down on cost cutting measures, which felt like extreme couponing for city builders. But hey, It works. Growing your population also unlocks more political perks in your town hall, so you'll have to pick a side. Maybe even anarchy is calling your name. Trade also becomes very useful here. Find a neutral party, swap resources, and maybe butter them up so they won't steamroll you when war inevitably kicks off. Speaking of those resources, your industry should be booming now. Plastics, natural gas, fruit, appliances, and with wealthier citizens come demands for luxuries like juice bars, soup kitchens, and maybe even some sushi. Why does this matter? Because citizen morale is king. Happy people equals more taxes. Unhappy people, well, let's just say riots aren't great for business. This is also a good time to zhuzh up your city with decorations. Well, if you want to. They won't boost your morale like in other city builders, but at least they make your empire look a little less like a post-war wasteland. Now onto the military. This isn't some RTS where a barracks means instant troops. Your soldiers need guns, bullets, rations, basically a whole supply chain of war. You want tanks? Anti-tank guns? Guess what? You're building those things from scratch too. And if you're not managing your economy well, your funds will evaporate faster than during a Steam summer sale. Military organization takes a minute to grasp. You start with soldiers and vehicles, grouping them into divisions. Later you'll also get to unlock ships and aircraft, but those will only come in the late game. Once prepped, you can deploy and move them across the map, potentially invading nearby territories. Combat is handled through an auto battle system. Stronger troops do better, but there's depth too. Land, sea, and air battles, different attack ranges, terrain effects, as well as unit veterancy. Winning means wiping out everything, but ties, no, you don't get those. There are only losses, and you'll need time to recover. Everything takes days, giving you a breather to handle city affairs before round 2. If you do manage to conquer land, you won't get to build a whole new city, but you can place strategic buildings like airstrips, economic boosters, or defenses for counterattacks. And by now, other empires are on the move too. Pro tip here is don't start a war unless you're absolutely ready. You won't know their military strength until they're steamrolling your capital. For me, mid-game is where Kaiserpunk really shines. Balancing city building and military expansion is a blast. But late game? That's a whole different monster. Alright, this is where Kaiserpunk really turns up the heat. Late game is all about world domination, whether through diplomacy or, let's be honest, turning your enemies into dust. This is what you've been building toward, but if you think you can just waltz in and steamroll your neighbors, think again. I got absolutely wrecked in my first few battles. Turns out, bunkers with garrison troops, yeah, they really hurt. Blimps? Terrifying. I learnt a lot of lessons in the beginning. By now, your city should be thriving, letting you focus on military upgrades. Naval and air combat finally come into play, so you'll be setting up shipyards and airstrips, ready to unleash some serious firepower. Late game is so fun, but wow, it is stressful. You're juggling city upkeep while other empires are gobbling up whole continents. Like, I freaked out the first few times I thought I was doing well, only to realize I'm trying to invade the whole of Africa. Naval combat is interesting. You can't just Aquaman your way across the ocean. You have to stick to designated checkpoints along the shore. And like with everything else, battles have cooldowns, which makes it feel oddly like a turn-based game at times. And if you want to transport troops overseas, you'll need to upgrade your fleet first. Air combat also follows similar rules. No freeform bombing runs here. You can only move aircraft to other places that has an airstrip or attack enemies that are nearby, which I guess makes sense. Putting all of this together and the late game can stretch on for hours. So yeah, I'd say Kaiserpunk isn't about blitzkrieg style warfare. It's slow, methodical, and really punishes impatience. As someone more used to RTS style battles, I really struggled with that, and I got humbled very often. That being said, finally taking over land or winning a tough battle is so satisfying. Strategy is everything now, like where to position your troops, who to invade, and when to strike. All make or break your conquest. The ultimate goal, global domination, of course. City building fans might feel a bit detached here, since your city might be running itself by now. So yeah, late game is making sure your army is strong enough and then keep it that way. It's not easy, but it's so rewarding when you get it done right. So with all of that being said, I definitely think everyone should try out Kaiserpunk. It's not perfect and could do with some balancing and visual tweaks. However, if you've been enjoying the look and feel up until now, I highly recommend checking it out today, or at least within a week if the devs want to do a few more balance updates. After 26 hours of trying and often failing to take over the world, would I come back to it? I definitely think so. I love city builders, and the devs have done something genuinely interesting here. It's not Civilization, it's not Anno, but you can see the influences, and I really like the direction they've gone with this game. And so who will enjoy this game? Well, if you love city builders and wanted something on a larger scale, or maybe you love grand strategy and wanted a city you could build up into a large metropolis, or maybe you just love World War battles and games, then definitely give this game a look. I will say that it's more for the hardcore strategy players out there, no cozy vibes here. From the constant fear of running out of money, your citizens on the brink of rioting and setting fire to their homes, to the impending doom of another empire about to kick down your door, Kaiserpunk makes sure to keep you focused even from the very start. Also, I feel like great management games need great dashboards, and this is where I feel Kaiserpunk needs some fine tuning. The menus feel a bit flat. I often felt in the dark, either from a lack of visual cues or missing details in the UI. Take finances for example. Cool, my money is disappearing. But by how much? I often had to hover over it constantly. Seeing which buildings were financial black holes also took more effort than it should. So yeah, I think some well-placed graphs, filters, maybe some visual cues will really help. Performance-wise, my laptop handled it fine, even with a sprawling city. Visually, yeah, it's rough around the edges, but yeah, like I said, zooming in to see what the people were up to, that was really cool, and eventually I really warmed up to those visuals. And yes, let's talk about that AI artwork. I reached out to the devs in an AMA on Reddit, and they assured me that professional artists were replacing it all by launch. When it came to the music, I loved it. For the most part, it's great. It's got this sweeping orchestral tracks that really fit the tone, but then at times, like resolving a citywide riot, only to have the music switch to cheery, old-timey tunes, I don't know, that was a bit of a whiplash. Now, is it worth $30? Absolutely. There's a ton of content, and at 26 hours in, I've barely scratched the surface. Replayability is solid too, with different countries, starting options, and paths to global domination. What do you think? Will you be picking it up? Let me know in the comment section below. But other than that, it's Marco here from Easily Distracted Games, and as always, don't stop gaming.